Hello. Oh,
There she
hi.
is.
Yay, you have the Coliseum.
Yes. I'm not here for real, but in my mind, I always am.
I
So,
mean, same. I'm happy to pretend with you. So perfect.
Bonnie Callahan, author of this lovely book right here. There we go. So,
Yeah.
Remy versus Rome, super fun book. Why don't you just like tell everybody what it's about? It's very fun.
I'm so bad at pitches, but okay. So it is the story of a young woman who finds herself sort of lost after a bad breakup, and she's always had a soft spot in her heart for Rome, so she decides to go back and ends up sort of involved in this whole adventure and with a really handsome detective who, of course, she is bound to fall in love with.
It's a
So
fun little element there.
yeah.
If you're writing a book that takes place in Italy, I feel like you have to have like a sexy Italian guy in the story
I mean,
somewhere.
yeah.
So,
Why
okay,
else are you in Italy? Yeah.
what was the inspiration behind this book?
So I recently actually just put up an Instagram post about this. I traveled the year after high school. I took a gap year and I worked, and then I backpacked with a friend through Europe, and we were on a night train from Nice to Rome. And this older man gets on and he pulls out, he has like bookmark of Michelangelo's David, and he's like, "Well, I'm doing research for Dan Brown's new book, The Michelangelo Code," and we were like, "Okay, cool." I mean, at the time, actually, I was like kind of obsessed with like the Da Vinci Code, so I was like into it, and then he was just a total creep after that. So
Hmm.
I know, but part of live and learn, and also
Yeah.
don't take night trains.
That's
And
that's a very good element.
yeah.
That's a good lesson for anybody.
Yeah. Or at least do it with like a lot of backup. Yeah. And so I just thought it was so funny that he like had this whole story. And so I started Remy versus Rum just sort of like for fun. I wrote I think I don't think I wrote the opening first. I can't remember where I started, but I wrote a scene, and then I took a romance class, and I was like, oh, this is going to turn into a romance novel. But like I loved that whole sort of ridiculousness of like the Michelangelo Code in the meantime.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm glad you brought it up that there's like a bunch of different elements to it because there's a little romance, but there's a lot of research in here. It was, first of all, super entertaining read because you feel like you're in Rome, which is an awesome city.
Mhm.
But I like learned stuff which I wasn't anticipating about like ancient Etruscans. Are you just like a genius or like how much research did you have to do?
It was a lot of research. So I did the Arizona and Orvieto study abroad program in college, and I was there for 4 semesters. So, and the cool thing about that program is the two directors are actually Etruscologists. So a lot of the classes they offer, even if they're not focused on the Etruscans, there's like an Etruscan element. And a lot of the field trips, we were going to like the necropolises. How do you say that? Necropoli,
Don't ask me.
something. Okay. Um, so there was a lot of exposure to Etruscan art, archaeology, history in that period, and like sort of for that area. So I had sort of a foundation, but then when it comes to like Roman Etruscan history, it was a little different. And also, I don't have a good memory. So it was a lot of revisiting old notes and like old textbooks and sort of trying to find a path I could follow or like trace back to make it all, seem semi legitimate at least.
And it's fascinating too. Like it adds this element of like, mystique, like sort of mysticism, a lot of layers to it.
Well,
And
thank
your
you.
research
I
totally
tried. I
shines
don't
through.
know. I
What made
appreciate
you
that.
decide to become an author? Is that something you always knew you wanted to do, or was it just that train trip you took and you thought, "Oh, this
I
would
was
be
like,
a
you know
good
what I need
book"?
to do? Yeah. I other people have asked this question, and it's so interesting because I never thought of myself as like somebody who always dreamed of being an author. But like looking back, like my mom would take me to the office with her after school and I'd make books, or like through high school, I was like always writing on, I had this little project book called Oh Helen, and it was from Helen of Troy's perspective and like her sort of owning her space. And then I was writing through college. So I never like had this, or maybe I did, but I never consciously thought I'm going to go into writing. Just, and then one day my sister
Yeah.
was actually like, "Hey, I want to write." I was like, "Let's start." And then it
Once
just,
you get started, it's like a black hole that you just can't get out of. Because me too, I've
absolutely.
always read books. I've loved to read books all the time. And in the back of my mind, I thought maybe one day I'll write a book. I don't know. And then once it starts happening,
Yeah. And that's
you're
like
like, oh
all
my
that
God, I
exists in
can't
your
stop
brain.
writing. It's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to remind people again of the book that you worked really hard on. Why is like, okay, Zoom's video feature? There we go.
It's not
This
quite
is
there
the
yet.
book.
There, oh,
It's
you
such
got it.
such a
Yeah.
cute cover. I love the color, the cover, love the colors. So whoever designed this, kudos to them.
That's Gia Thompson. She was amazing. Yeah, she was so
Yeah,
fun
it
to work
looks
with too.
fantastic. And now Bonnie, you have lived in Italy, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
So did you
So,
live in Rome?
no, no. Well, I mean, for brief stints, but never like
Okay,
longer than a month at a time in Rome.
gotcha.
Mostly, so I did the study abroad in Orvieto, and then after graduation, I moved back there, and was there for about 4 years. So
Okay. So you
overall,
can speak the language then a little bit, huh?
I mean, I should be able to. I
Or
also ended up graduating. I mean, my degree is in Italian. So but fluency in language is one of those things that I feel like, you're even with English, you're always learning new words and like
yes,
new ways. And so I feel like fluency in any language is like a
it's
process that's
ongoing.
thing. Yeah, for
If you're
sure.
not constantly practicing, I mean, it's
Oh,
so
yeah.
easy to just let those words
Yeah.
disappear from
Blech.
your memory. So yeah,
Absolutely.
it's hard, and Italian is so different from English too, the grammar of it. So
Oh, yeah.
it's hard to learn a new language. I'm trying to learn it. It's going okay, but I'm not fluent yet. Maybe one day. Okay, what's the best thing, or what was the best thing about living in Italy versus the worst thing? Because it's culture shock. I mean, you go there and it's totally
Very.
different.
Yeah. I think for me, what I loved the most was that you're never alone. Like there's this, you walk out of your door and there's neighbors. Like you're
Yeah,
always
the
in this
community.
process of life. Yeah. And you sit like, we'd have there was this barbarique and we'd get our coffees there in the morning and you're like right on the main road on the cobblestone and people are coming by and it's hello, hi, like smiling at all the people, so you're constantly like connecting. And I'm like a
Hmm.
relatively shy person. So
Me
at
too.
first that was kind of overwhelming, but then it's nice because it's like little moments, like you get
Hmm.
to have that like nice little dose of connection without like being
Totally.
overwhelmed or like, yeah, so it was awesome. I mean, I love that.
I
The
think out
work,
here it's like a lot of Americans avoid their neighbors.
yeah, oh,
Or
absolutely, it's
maybe
like
I do that. I'm in my little cave, my little,
yeah.
my safe zone. And if I go outside, I'm like, don't look at me, don't talk to
Yeah,
me.
right, don't make eye
Going outside to take
contact.
the trash out. I don't want to
Yeah.
communicate with anybody.
Yeah.
It's
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 so true.
it's a lot more social out there, but it's I don't know, you kind of get used to it. I was only there for only a week, so not 4 years, but even just for being there for a week when I was in Rome, I could sort of feel like there's a sense of community out here that's very strong, and that's
Yes.
refreshing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. I taught briefly at high school. I taught English in the high schools, and the kids seemed so like settled and confident. And I was like, this is so weird. But I was like, maybe when you're like, people constantly have eyes on you, like that can be a little bit suffocating. But also, there's like
Hmm.
a really beautiful reassurance in knowing like you do have this village, um, and so coming back, luckily I'm very close with my family and we all live like near each other, but it was really nice to sort of like establish that sort of thing also with our kids. So like they know,
Right.
it's bigger than just us.
So you lived out there with your kids?
No, I had my kids
Oh,
in
okay.
Tucson.
Gotcha.
Yeah, yeah.
So have they been back there with you?
Yeah, we try to go. My husband's family, he's from a little town, this place actually. So
Oh,
it's
very
called
cool.
Genoza. And it's in like the Arch of the Boot. So
Okay.
it's pretty far south. And we try to go back to see his family fairly regularly. I mean,
That's
it's been hard
awesome.
with the pandemic and stuff, but
It
yeah,
gets hot down there, right? By the boot,
it's
the heel of
toasty.
the boot.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
whew.
Summers, yeah.
So you got to bring the sunscreen and the
Yeah.
swimsuits. Yep.
Yes. Yeah. Finally,
Um,
they've discovered air conditioning, so that's been a great
yes,
too to our
I've
yeah.
I've heard that, and Italy's old, so like there's a lot of old buildings and ancient this and ancient that, and yeah, AC is like one of those things that's not necessarily taken for granted out there.
No, yeah,
Yeah.
not at all. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that it's starting to, pop up
Me too.
because yeah,
Yeah.
I've heard it gets really toasty. So my book that I'm writing also takes place in Rome. Your book takes place in Rome. Why is Rome so darn special? I mean, what is it about, like, what do you think it is about Rome that is so special to people?
I
Because I
don't
know we're
know.
not the only ones that are obsessed with it.
Yeah, it's like a common thing, for sure. And I was thinking about this and I wonder, I feel like Rome is such a big part of our sort of like cultural consciousness. Like we grow up with like, images of the Colosseum or the Vatican or the Pantheon. And so when you go, it almost feels like familiar already,
Right.
whereas like foreign cities can feel very foreign and can make you feel
Hmm.
sort of out of place. And Rome just somehow has a way of feeling like a big warm hug, and like the streets like all lead, like you never feel lost in Rome. I don't know. It's magic. Why do you
Yeah.
think it
I think, the answer you gave is perfect. It summed it up. For me, it's something like, I mean, the cliche, all roads lead to Rome. It sort of feels like it's one of those cities that you just have to see at least once.
is?
And
Mhm.
I knew several people that had been, so I had seen their pictures, and you hear about like seeing the Sistine Chapel, and it's like one of those places you just have to see.
Yeah.
So I don't know, and it totally lived up to my expectations and more. It's not like you expect it to be amazing, then you go there and you're like, oh well, this place kind of blows. No, it's like
Yeah.
it's really awesome. It's got
Yeah.
great food, it's got history, it's got amazing architecture and art, and I mean, I don't think you can sum it up in one word as to why it's so special. It
You're
just
totally right.
is.
And you're
And
like
like,
in it. Yeah.
and to go back to like your research when, you had to research the Etruscans and stuff. I've watched a few documentaries about, ancient Romans and stuff. They were brilliant. Like, wow, they pretty much built the world, it seems like, in a way,
Yeah. Exactly. And so you go, even if you end up going multiple times, there's like always something new to discover. And even just walking through the city feels like discovery. Like you go and there's like always something new to see, or to like a church to jump into, or, a
Yes.
cafe. Everything is an experience in Rome. So,
My one must do next time I go, because I didn't do it this past time I was there a few years ago, is to ride a Vespa. I'm
oh,
going to
yeah.
be screaming the whole time,
I
but it's going
know.
to happen. Have you ridden a Vespa?
You're braver than I am. I would not trust myself for a second on the streets of Rome. I'm
See,
like,
here's how you do
no.
it.
Yeah,
You ride it with one of those sexy Italian men we were talking about
there you
earlier.
go.
Let them do the
Sorry,
driving
husband.
and
I
you'll just
know.
hold on.
Yeah.
There you go. That's the plan.
Be in the back. Yeah. Close your eyes if you need to. Yeah. I
Well,
love it. I like
Bonnie,
it.
is there anything else that you want to add about your book, Remy versus Rome? There we go.
Yay.
Anything else you want to add about it? It's available now. I read it. It's so entertaining. It just I flew through it because there's also a cat in it, and I'm a cat lady. There's a cat. There's like an ancient amulet search. There's a sexy detective. There's a little love story. It's like got everything you could possibly need in one book.
I think you've covered all of the bases for me. Thank you. Yeah.
So, where is your website? Where can people find you? Are you working on any new books? How can they stay in touch?
My website is bonniecallahanbooks.com, and it probably needs to be updated, but it exists. And also, I'm on Instagram as author Bonnie Callahan. And as far as new books go, I actually have a YA historical coming out hopefully in
Ooh,
the spring. I'm aiming for April 21st because it's Rome's birthday. And
very cool.
it's the first book in the All Road series. And this is the first time I've ever said the title anywhere, but it's called Road of Stars and Flame. And it starts at the Temple of Delphi. So it's a series, obviously. And so
And it sounds like you'll be back at the library doing more research for this one.
so much research. And then also I'm really hoping to get out in the fall or the spring. I have another, it's not like a sequel to Remy vs. Rome, but in the same kind of idea. It's in Napoli, and that's the title too.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
It's also in Napoli. Yeah.
That makes sense.
And it's sort of another little adventure-free romance.
Thank you so much. It was so fun chatting with you, Bonnie.
Thank you, Laura. So nice to finally meet you, and I'm so excited
Yes.
for your book. So
Thank you. I'm excited too. It's a slow process.
It is.
But it's happening.
I feel that. Yeah.
Yeah, you know the deal. You're ahead of me in this game.
Barely.
Well, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll be chatting with you online.
Okay, bye, sweetie. Thank you.
Bye.